This year, we have the privilege of having a third of all speakers be women, and that's a special thanks to Jessica McKellar and her outreach, which is fantastic. So once again, if you enjoy a talk, please let them know so they know they did something wonderful today, and tomorrow, and Sunday. I'd also like to thank the Pathfinder Software Foundation. The PSF acts as basically the financial backer for this entire conference. So basically, they're on the hook if anything goes wrong, which obviously having a sold-out crowd 3 years in a row, once again this year, seems like it's not a big deal. But for instance, when the recession hit, the PSF was the one that had to cover expenses and stuff. And this stuff is planned 2, 3, 4 years in advance, so stuff does happen. So I do want to thank the PSF for being willing to take the financial risk of keeping this conference going. I'd also want to thank the sponsors. If you don't know how expensive it is to run a conference, it's very expensive. The hobbyist cost, for instance, does not come close to covering the expenses. And it's thanks to sponsors, both to the Python Software Foundation and sponsors here at the conference that help keep the price low enough so that students and hobbyists and people who can't get an employer to actually pay for them to come, to keep it low enough to make this an affordable conference compared to other conferences out there. And a special thanks to Jesse Noller, wherever he is, for getting us 110 sponsors this year to help make this conference possible. As Jesse always does. This year we had a fantastic amount of financial aid to help get people here who couldn't afford to come on their own. The PSF alone donated $80,000 to help fund people for tickets, flights, hotels, etc. A thanks to PyLadies, who raised $40,000 to help get people to come. And also thanks to PyCon Australia, who also raised on their own $3,500. So thank you to all of them, and making sure we can have as many people who can come as possible, regardless of their financial needs. So I'm going to cover what's already happened, not to make you jealous, but so that hopefully all of you who have not been here before will know what you missed, so that next year, which I hope will be all of you coming back, can know what you can come for early on and actually enjoy the conference even more than you will this year. So to start, there's actually a group of Pythonistas coming out from the Toronto area on something called Python on Rails, where they basically rented out a train car from Toronto to Montreal. Yes, Python on Rails, I know, it's a good joke. And they basically just took a train together on Thursday, and they just all talked and hung out. My wife and I took the train. It was a fantastic experience. It runs along Lake Ontario, and it's gorgeous. So if you're coming from the Toronto area, or honestly want to fly to Toronto, which is not hard, and then take the train with them next year, I would highly recommend it. We had tutorials all of Wednesday and Thursday. There were 36 of them, attended by 857 people in 1,446 seats. Obviously a very successful year. It's a great way to learn some things, and also to support the tutorial speakers because they're able to attend the conference because of that. I was asked, if you did attend a tutorial, please fill out the survey form for the tutorials you attended. It's used as feedback for the tutorial speakers for them to help improve their tutorials and such, and it's very invaluable, so please fill those out. We had the Language Summit. Basically, those of us on the core development team get together every Wednesday before the conference, sit around and argue. Various things come up, and it's one of the few times of the year where we actually are allowed to sit down as people face to face and discuss things and hash things out, get updates that don't span large threads and stuff. And very productive as always, and it was fantastic to get to do that. There was also an education summit yesterday where various educators and stakeholders were able to get together and try to help advance Python in the education world. For instance, the huge push out in the UK, and using Raspberry Pis to help students learn and such, and I'll talk about something that's going on today and tomorrow about that shortly. We had sponsor workshops this past Wednesday and Thursday, where basically sponsors had a chance to come in and actually give you a tutorial. I know how it kind of sounds. It sounds like it's just a big pitch, but honestly, if you looked at the topics, they were actually useful and how to actually use tools, how to use Python in a unique way that someone else has had to deal with. So it was a good way to actually, if you were here for the tutorials, to kind of fill time between them, or if you're only here for one, to have the next day actually have something to do without having to pay for anything, and make sure you had something to do with your time. We also had the opening reception yesterday. Thank you to iWeb for sponsoring that. I had a good time. I don't know about the rest of you. The 2 free drink tickets helped. It was great to also see all the sponsors out there and who's using Python, which is growing every year and continues to amaze me. So that's what's happened. So once again, if you missed it, come back next year. You can do all that yourself again. But here's what you got looking forward to today, Saturday, and Sunday. First of all, we have 100 talks this year across 5 tracks plus the keynotes, which I think is absolutely fantastic. I believe I was told there were about 600 submissions. So as you can tell by that number, there was a huge amount of competition this year to try to get talks in. So I expect this will be a fantastic conference once again. I do have some last-minute changes to the schedule to announce. Daniel Lindsay's talk today at, I believe, 11:30, creating bomb-proof data importers has unfortunately been canceled. And there has been a replacement of a talk at the end of today. Peter Fine's talk, Free Software, Free People, has been substituted with Advanced Methods for Creating Decorators by Graham Dumpleton. Those are the only changes in the schedule at this point. While we all get to sit around and talk about Python and such throughout the next 3 days, we actually are lucky enough to have 80 kids here at the conference be learning Python on Raspberry Pis and PyGame. This is something that started at PyCon out in San Francisco, Mountain View. And it was such an enormous success, we made sure we brought it back this year. It's sold out, and I don't know if you've ever poked your head in this room from the past 2 years, but if you haven't, it's fantastic to see these kids learn, because these are people, little kids under the age of 18 who have never learned how to program, sitting there just wide-eyed like we all once were, and just going, wow, look at what I can do. And it's fantastic to see. It's sold out, unfortunately, so if you brought your kids, I'm sorry. But you can sign up early, hopefully next year, and get your kids in. There are going to be lightning talks this year, as usual. If you don't know what a lightning talk is, basically, it's a 5-minute talk. It's really fast, you get to the point, and it can be a lot of fun, because a lot of people do them on the spot. This year, though, we're actually trying a kind of different thing, where half the talks were previously pitched and accepted, and the other half are going to be through sign-up. They will be at the beginning and end of each day, except for the beginning of today, so they'll start the end of today, Friday. And then every morning before the conference starts, and every evening when the conference ends, there'll be a set of lightning talks. I highly recommend attending. They're always a lot of fun. There's always at least several fantastic lightning talks that are definitely worth seeing. We have open spaces every day during the conference. If you don't know what an open space is, you can kind of think of it as a self-organized aspect of the conference. You can basically reserve a room for, I believe, half an hour. And you can either present something, you can get together with like-minded people and have a discussion. It's completely up to you. There's a board, I believe, down by reception, that you can go sign up for a room and just use the room for whatever you need to do whatever you want. We have a first this year. We actually have childcare for those of you traveling with children. It's every day this year. I suspect if the reception is good, we'll bring it back. So hopefully, if you didn't bring your family this year because you weren't sure what to have everyone you brought with you do while you're here geeking out, that's fine. Next year, make sure to bring them, because we'll have childcare to help make sure they're taken care of while you're doing your thing. We have what's been kind of dubbed the 6th track, which is basically Explore Montreal. Every day at 11 o'clock outside of registration, there's a tour to basically show you around this wonderful city. I believe there's a sign-up on Eventbrite, but I don't know about you, but I find the city amazing. And it's definitely worth trying to sign up for if you have the time in your schedule to actually do this. And it's being run by the local Montreal Python group, so they know what they're talking about, their locals. At least you hope. We have something unique here called Startup Row. Basically, there's a national, well, it's actually international now because we've included Canada, where there were 5 times this year where basically startups came and pitched ideas to various people. and try to say, I want to come to PyCon. Please give me a free booth for a day. Give us 2 free passes, and we'd love to attend PyCon as a startup. So these were the winners of those competitions. On Friday, Inbox App, AirMail Plus, 10 Scores, AppThwack, Trinket, and Procured Health have a booth today in the sponsors room. On Saturday, Check.io, Tindy, Transporter.io, Challenge.io, Quietly, Mist.io will have their booths on Saturday. So if you want to see some of the up-and-coming startups that were selected, please check both Friday and Saturday. There's going to be a PyCon dinner for the first time this year. 2 dinners, in fact, one hosted by Brandon Rhodes and one hosted by Greg Brockman. Basically, this is I believe there are tickets still available, so if you want to still go. But basically, we've pre-booked space in some restaurants where these 2 Python luminaries will basically be hosting a dinner and having discussions, quizzes, and just trying to basically have a good time where all of us can actually get to know each other as a community outside the conference and in a relaxing environment where we can actually just have a chat. There's going to be a 5K charity run tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. I believe the path is going to be along the water in Old Montreal. Please come if you're at all a runner or a jogger or even just want to walk it. All proceeds from this charity run will go to the Electronic Frontier Foundation, so please come. Speaking of charities, there will be a charity auction tomorrow night at 18:30 or 6:30 in room 710B. All proceeds from this auction will go to PyLadies. Various sponsors and groups have donated various things. I believe last year the largest auctioned item was an original piece of artwork from Wreck-It Ralph. So there's some pretty cool stuff. There is a cover charge at the door. It's no big deal. We have Square readers to take credit cards if you didn't prepay for that. Once again, all proceeds go to PyLadies. There will be a jobs fair for those of you interested. Over 60 sponsors are taking part in this jobs fair. It's going to happen Sunday from 10 to 1300 or 1 o'clock. So if you're in the market, good place to go and talk to the various over 60 companies looking for people. And while that's going on, if you're done or for some reason aren't looking for work, which is fine, there's going to be a poster session from the exact same amount of time. Any of you in academia know exactly what this is. If not, basically people come and make a poster to basically present things they're working on. I've seen things all the way from working with open data in government all the way up to people doing bioinformatics with Python. So the topics vary greatly, and it's a great way to have a conversation because the poster presenter is standing there and you can just have a nice talk about what they've been working on and give them support or get information from them and what they're doing. On Sunday, there's going to be a PyLadies lunch open to anyone who identifies as a woman in room 516 at 1 o'clock. It was so popular last year, it was completely oversold. So they really expanded it, so hopefully we won't have any space issues this year. So totally feel free to come. Software Carpentry is actually after the conference on Monday and Tuesday. For those of you who don't know, Software Carpentry is run with Mozilla, and basically it's trying to teach scientists and engineers and such, people who are not naturally programmers, basically how to use technology and how to program. It's not totally geared towards exactly scientists. So for instance, they're going to have courses on R for numeric analysis. They have other courses specifically designed for scientists. Please check it out. There are tickets still available. And it is open to anyone. It is not restricted at all to just the conference. So feel free to have anyone who happens to be in the area come with you to potentially attend. Information obviously is on the website. Lastly, in terms of events, there are going to be sprints Monday through Thursday. I personally view the sprints as almost the highlight beyond the hallway track of this conference. I like to say I learned how to program thanks to Python, and part of that's because I've gotten to attend these sprints. Basically, projects come, and usually the leaders of the projects have people come join them, and they show them the ropes. They'll explain, here's how you commit, here's how you can contribute to the project, and you learn tons. These are people who run some of the top-notch projects in this community and know all the ins and outs of their project, how to do things well in Python, and it's an extremely wonderful learning experience. And once again, it's another great way to socialize and meet people because Everyone is relaxed. No one's running into another talk. You're just sitting there hanging out and just coding. And I personally find it fantastic. If you can attend this year, I do highly, highly recommend you try to find time next year. I just can't sell it enough. It's just fantastic. Lastly, just because this is somewhat unique to our conference, although I believe it's expanding throughout the conference world itself, we do have a code of conduct. Basically, just be... Basically, just be professional, respectful, and kind. You can read the full version on the website. I believe it's also in your conference guide. We just want everyone to feel welcome in this fantastic community. So that's why we have that. And I believe I have a few minutes to just opine. Yeah, I know. I hear some of you groaning like, oh, God, what is he going to say? I love this community. I've been lucky enough to be a part of this community since 2002. And that was before the first PyCon, honestly, in 2003 in DC. And I think we had 300, 350 people. Obviously, it's grown a little bit. This is back when people still argued, do you use Python or do you use Perl? I don't know. But back then, the community was smaller, but it honestly felt the same. It was an extremely welcoming, friendly, constructive group of people who were always willing to let people come in, help them out, and let them enjoy programming. And Guido and Barry Warsaw and Tim Peters and Fred Drake and all of those early people have done a fantastic job of starting a wonderful community that all of us have come together and worked around to make sure it's continued to move forward. Now, I don't know about the rest of you, but I like to think of it as I came for the language, but I stayed for the community. So I want to personally thank all of you for making this such a wonderful place to be and such a wonderful group of people to be around. So thank you. Now, assuming I didn't embarrass myself too much with that, I'd like to introduce our first keynote speaker. John Perry Barlow was actually a lyricist for the Grateful Dead. He's a co-founder of the Electronic Frontier Foundation, and he is also a fellow at the Brockman Law Center at Harvard Law. And I'd like to welcome John up to please present.